All right, we're live. Welcome, everybody, to the DFO Show. I'm editor-in-chief of dailyfaceoff.com, Brock Seguin. We got associate editor-in-chief, Dylan Berthiaume. First big slate of the year.
First big one.
Last night was okay, not too bad. We did all right.
It was all right.
Cockney was a good pick. Gibson was a solid pick.
Yep.
Not bad for our first show of the year. Like we said, it's only going to get better from here. We had 10 games on tonight's slate. If you didn't catch the first show, what we're going to try to do is keep these as short as possible, usually, under 30 minutes, or right around 30 minutes if possible. So we're probably not going to be able to get to all 30 games in depth.
10 games?
All 10 games in under 30 minutes in depth.
Yeah.
So we're going to skip through a couple that we don't have a ton of interest in.
Yeah, a couple low event matchups. Either, two solid teams going head to head, or there's a couple examples where there's just guys that we haven't seen play together before and we don't know exactly what to expect. So don't feel most comfortable recommending them, I guess.
At this point, we have no idea what's going to happen. So much turnover in the NHL this offseason. So we'll let you know, the games that we're skipping. If you have any questions about a game that we didn't touch on as much as you would have liked, feel free to put it in the comment section. So let's start with a team that got absolutely smashed last night, the Boston Bruins. They are on a back-to-back start of the season. Not an ideal way to start the year. You lose 7-0, then play right away. But maybe it's a good way to get over it right away.
Yeah.
But they're in Buffalo to take on the Sabres. A lot of excitement surrounding the Sabres this year. I mean, obviously, Rasmus Dahlin, first overall pick. Carter Hutton led the league in pretty much every statistical goalie category.
Same goals against average.
Not too bad. The important ones, right? So, their first games as Buffalo Sabres. Do you have any interest here in targeting the Bruins on back-to-back, or are you staying away from it after what you saw last night?
We were talking about it before the show, but, normally the Boston one in Buffalo, it's a great matchup that you always want to get your hands on. It's probably one of the rare occasions where you might want to look at fading them. They're coming off a 7-0 loss. You would expect somewhat of a bounce-back performance, but at the end of the day, they're still on the tail end of a back-to-back. It's one of the cardinal rules of playing fantasy hockey is avoid teams on the back-to-back.
Especially on the road.
Look to target against them, yeah. But, in that same breath, if we're looking at anyone on Buffalo, I don't really feel comfortable stacking any of Buffalo 1. Buffalo 1's going to be matched up mostly with Boston 2. At 5v5, Boston 2 really good at suppressing scoring chances and high danger
except
chances
for last
night. Yeah, except for last night. Generally speaking, though. But in the same breath, I do think Jack Eichel makes for a solid cash play on his own. He should rack up a lot of shots tonight, and he is playing against the Yaroslav Halak and a tired Bruins team. But I just would not feel comfortable playing a full Buffalo stack.
Yeah, and even if you want to get crazy and target a guy like Rasmus Dahlin in his rookie game, I mean, we saw Elias Pettersson last night. Had a nice performance, scored on his first shot. Kotkaniemi came through for us. He had a pretty good game. But Dahlin is a lot higher price than those two guys were in their first game. He's at 4,700. So you staying away from that one in his first game?
Yeah, I just don't think the value's there when you look at the price.
Not like Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, exactly.
So not a whole lot of interest on either side here. But I mean, like you said, you never can really count Boston one out of any matchup, especially in Buffalo. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think that I might have some ownership on Boston 1 just to cover my bases there.
For sure.
We're going to move now to what should be a higher event game. The Islanders and the Hurricanes. The Islanders obviously torn apart this offseason pretty much, just gutted for the most part. But Matt Barzal is still there. They just named Honors League captain today. Not that has any relevance to daily fantasy.
But it is funny and noteworthy.
It is. It's quite hilarious. But anyways, they're in Carolina to take on a Hurricanes team that led the league in Corsi 4 last year.
Yeah.
Do you have any preference, Islanders or Hurricanes in this one?
I like Carolina 1. I love Barzal going up against Mrazek. I think that's a great matchup, and he makes for a strong cash play. But when you're looking at on the whole, they should be looking at Carolina 1 for most of the night at 5v5.
Islanders 1.
Yeah, Islanders 1 should be looking at Carolina 1 is what I'm saying. And that's just a tough matchup for them. Carolina 1 of the best teams at 5v5, or one of the best lines at 5v5.
Best teams at 5v5 too.
Yeah, exactly. So in that same breath, obviously Barzal can be a handful to deal with. But Carolina 1 should see about a 50-50 split against the Islanders' top line and their third line of Komarov, Filppula, and Fritz, which they should go to town on. So I think Carolina 1's the strongest play, the strongest stack here. But like I said, Barzal carries some strong cash value for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to fade Barzal. I think he's at 6,600 too, so it's nothing too crazy there. But yeah, I got a lot of shares in Carolina 1 tonight. I really like them a lot. Aho and Teravainen dominated together last year. just all year. It remains to be seen what's going to happen with Ferland on that line. But I mean, he did an admirable job last year playing with Monahan and Goudreau in Carolina, so I don't see why he can't have success tonight. After that top line, there's not a whole lot of depth. It looks like Andrei Svechnikov is going to start on the fourth line tonight, which is a little bizarre. He will see some power play time, but I mean, not a lot of interest. It looked like he might play on the top line to start, and then he just got bumped right before the season started, which is kind of weird. But I think in a couple games or whatever, he'll move back up.
For sure. I don't think you keep him with the big club to play him on the fourth line all year.
No, definitely not. Washington Capitals also on a back-to-back. Tough matchup for them. They head to Pittsburgh to take on the Penguins. I mean, obviously coming off a very impressive 7-0 win last night. They're going back to Braden Holtby tonight. Matt Murray in net for the Penguins.
Yeah.
Which side of the coin do you like here?
I like Pittsburgh here. Washington looked really good last night, but like you said, it's the back-to-back that we love to see. And Pittsburgh one should get the matchup at the OV line at 5v5. Which is normally a pretty even matchup, but it's always high event. It's always back and forth.
Tons of chances.
Yeah, a lot of chances, a lot of scoring chances, a lot of shots. And I just think with the back-to-back, you have to give the edge to Pittsburgh one here. So we're looking at Gensel, Crosby, and Hornqvist tonight. And then you could always look at adding one of Malkin or Kessel or Letang in it to kind of go for that power play one stack. Obviously Washington looked amazing last night, but I think the matchup's just too tough for them on the road on a back-to-back.
It's funny to say, to think about how they're coming off a back-to-back and they got a really difficult matchup, and Boston's coming off a back-to-back and they got a really cushy matchup, which, historically has been, but neither team are really, all these other teams are so fresh. It's so hard to target the handful of teams that played last night. I like Pittsburgh a lot too in this spot. Obviously, they're always highly priced, highly targeted. But, we might be able to sneak some lower ownership just because Washington did look so good last night. Yeah. People might not be thinking too much about the back-to-back, so they could still be, fairly low owned after what we saw last night. My Red Wings, I know I'm wearing a jersey right now, but I don't have a lot of interest in them tonight. They're hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets in Detroit. Detroit is icing 6 rookies tonight. Not ideal. Not ideal for the Red Wings, but pretty ideal for the Blue Jackets. Yeah. So do you have any interest in Columbus tonight?
Yeah, I'm all over Columbus one tonight. Penner and Dubois-Atkinson. They got the best matchup at 5v5 of any of the top lines on this slate. They're going to be split between probably the Larkin line and the Nielsen line. The Detroit matchup's a little bit harder to forecast now because Zetterberg was there last year. Yeah. Obviously, he's gone now. But that looks like that's how it's going to line up, and that's all gravy for Columbus one. I think they're one of the top stacks of the night. And then you're looking at adding guys like Foligno is the fourth forward on that power play unit, and then Rowinski. Rowinski a little bit high price, and he does have that thing with the shoulder.
Yeah, he missed most of the preseason, but he's ready to go.
Yeah, it seems like it was more precautionary than anything else.
Yeah, he was coming off surgery, but with no Seth Jones, he's going to play massive minutes.
Yeah, he has to. That's probably why he didn't play in the preseason.
Exactly, getting him ready to go. Yeah. Unfortunate that Seth Jones isn't there, but Werenski's at 5,700 or 5,800, somewhere around there. Makes for a nice option to add with Columbus one, who should just go off. I know I'm wearing this jersey, but I'm not expecting big things out of these guys this year. Yeah, it shouldn't be very good. Moving on, we've got Chicago and Ottawa. Yep. I know I don't have a lot of interest here, which is strange to say because Chicago historically has been so good. Ottawa, though, probably one of the worst teams in the NHL this season. So with that said, are you interested in Chicago at all?
I think Kane makes for a solid cash play on his own. But other than that, I don't think there's really too much here that's worth investing. It's really hard to forecast the matchups in this game because, for a couple of reasons. One, Ottawa's missing some players and has some new faces in their lineup.
And they're just terrible.
But they usually opt to put Pajot against the top line of the other team, and Pajot's out right now. So it looks like we're assuming it's going to be Colin White because he's the one playing between Zach Smith and Mark Stone. Mm-hmm. But then again, there's always the question of when you look at the Blackhawks, what's their top line to you? Is it the Kane line or is it the Taves line?
You have to think it'd be the Kane line, but who knows?
Right? You would imagine, but Chicago runs their lines as the Taves being the top line. And we've seen other teams match up like it that way before. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of question marks around this one and not a whole lot of talent aside from really Patrick Kane. So just not a whole lot of interest in this game in general. It should be pretty low event.
Yeah, I think that Kane could see some ownership, especially in cash. I'm leaning towards playing him in cash for sure, just because the sole reason is I can't name 7 players on the Senators roster.
Yeah, and Craig Anderson is just terrible last year too.
Awful. Another team that's really bad, the New York Rangers, or should be really bad. They host the Nashville Predators, one of my favorite squads. Yeah. Heading into this year, I got a lot of love for the Predators. I'm going to have some stock in the Predators tonight. What about you?
Yeah, I like it. I like Nashville 2 a lot more than Nashville 1. I think this is kind of a deceivingly tough matchup for Nashville's top line against the Rangers' top line of Kreider, Zibanejad, and Buchnevich. Those three really good at limiting scoring chances against, usually push the puck the other way, even against some of the better lines in the league. Pretty underrated last year. They just don't capitalize, like the top lines do, which is, I think, kind of why they go under the radar. But it's always a tough matchup at 5v5. And the Predators' top line, they did well last year, 5v5, but didn't generate a ton of scoring chances, relative to the McKenna line, the Bergeron line,
the top line,
the other top lines at 5v5. So I think the points are going to come for the power play here and the Nashville 2 versus the Rangers 2 matchup. I think that's, that's the big matchup on this card right here. You got Fiala, Turris, and Smith. It's probably one of the best value builds on the slate tonight. They should see a lot of time against Vesey, Haves, and Zuccarello, whose 5v5 numbers are much worse than the top lines last year.
And if anybody listens to the podcast, you know that we are big fans of Kevin Fiala. So whenever we can play him in a cushy matchup, I think we're going to take advantage there. And then the one thing that's always intriguing about playing the Predators is just how dominant that blue line is. When you can put a Subban or a Yossi, even an Ekholm who blocks a ton of shots in your lineup, Ryan Ellis. It's a nice way to solidify your lineup, and especially when you're going with a cheaper option like Nashville 2.
Yeah, it is tough to power play stack with Nashville 2 because they're a little divided on the power plays. You got Smith who plays up on the top unit. And then if you're looking to add a cheap defenseman in to go with on that second unit, it just doesn't exist because it's Yossi and Ellis, right? So you got
the third line just third pair just doesn't play.
You're looking at least $5-6 grand to add into your value stack. And, normally you want to pair your defenseman with your premier stack, not your value stack anyway. So that's why I think it's just Nashville 2 tonight. But if you are playing Nashville 1, you're going to want to fit in some sort of power play.
Try to get Subban in there. We've got the Jets and the Blues, just two powerhouses in the Western Conference. Blues adding Ryan O'Reilly this offseason. So it's kind of hard to figure out how these teams are going to match up. O'Reilly primarily as a shutdown guy in Buffalo.
Right. But then you look at St. Louis, and normally it would be the Berglund line who's
now in Buffalo
against the opposition's best. And Tarasenko would normally avoid the top lines at home.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine you trade for Ryan O'Reilly and don't put him against the opponent's top lines.
I just find it so weird how dominant that top line was last year. And if you're trying to get Tarasenko away from the other top lines in the league, why would you put him with O'Reilly? It seemed weird to me when they did it, especially with how good Schwartz, Shen, and Tarasenko did last year. It seemed strange, especially, you get two guys like Matt Maroon and O'Reilly and just put them immediately with Tarasenko.
Yeah, it might just be, this is the best way to balance out their lineup because Shen and Schwartz were so good even away from Tarasenko last year. Not as good, but still really good. So, I don't know. I just think up and down, we're looking at, lines and matches that we just haven't seen play together before. Or it's just, two solid, even strength lines going head to head. I think it's really going to come down to special teams on this one. But generally, there's just a lot of uncertainty in this game, and that's why I'm staying away from it for the most part.
There's going to be times this year where all we do is talk about Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler. We're going to be all in on them.
Yeah.
But there's so many other advantageous matchups tonight that there's just no reason to pay up for them when they might see O'Reilly all night.
So Vince Dunn too. We should mention.
Yes, Vince Dunn is going to be on the top power play unit in St. Louis tonight.
Yeah.
Parayko not featured on the power play units at all in practice and the morning skate. So Vince Dunn, I think he's $3,300, and he's going to be on the top power play unit. So he's a decent punt option for sure. Arizona and Dallas. Again, if you listen to the podcast or even read anything on DFO, I love Antti Ranta, but tough spot for them to start the year heading to Dallas against a dominant Dallas 1 line. Do you have any interest in Dallas 1 tonight?
They should see about a split between Arizona 1 and 2. So that's the step-in line and the Keller line. The step-in line should actually give them more trouble at even strength. The step-in was better last year at limiting chances against and things of that nature. So that's kind of a slight Dallas advantage. But then you look at it against Arizona 2, it really tilts in Dallas 1's favor. So I think Dallas 1 is a solid build tonight. Just not sure if it's worth paying up for them with the other
premier lines
on the slate tonight, but I think if you're interested in them, you want to play them, go right ahead. And then you're looking at Radek Faksa seeing the other half between the split between the top 6. So it's another half decent line at limiting chances again. So it probably goes without saying, but Arizona's just in tough tonight. I don't think Keller's worth a cash play.
No.
Especially when he's playing on what might be the second line. It'll be interesting to see how the time on ice actually gets doled out between those two lines.
Dallas is so much better on home ice, too, than they are on the road. So Arizona at home may be a little bit more interesting, but on the road, just not that exciting.
For sure.
Ben Bishop makes for an interesting play in net. They should, get away with the win. He should pick up, the 3 points there. But there's a lot of goalie options out there tonight as well. Minnesota, Colorado. I know you made a lot of money on Colorado won last year. They're together. The lineup doesn't look good after Colorado won, but Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen, together, they're all on the first line. They are all on the first power play unit. Are you going back to the well here to start the season, or are you staying away tonight?
I'll probably put in a lineup or two with Colorado one just because you got to stay loyal. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty tough matchup for them. I would normally call it an even matchup, but I think you always got to give the edge to Colorado one at home. So I think they have a slight advantage over Zuckerstall and Granlund. But I think you can play either side of that matchup. It should be high event, should be really back and forth. It always is when Colorado one's on the ice. And then, the power play, if you're playing Colorado one, you should always have Barrie in your lineup with them. And then moving on down, I think Minnesota 2 is one of them and Nashville 2 are the two best value stacks on this slate. They're going to be up against Colorado 3 for most of the night. That's the Soderberg line. They're just terrible at limiting offense.
They're just awful at hockey.
They just keeps throwing them out there in some sort of a shutdown role for whatever reason.
I can't believe Gabriel Bourque still has a job.
Yeah.
How?
I don't know, man. On the third line, too. Like, it's not even close.
No.
But Parise, Koivu, Niederreiter, I think make a great value stack as well. So
especially Niederreiter if you need to, if you need a value winger, Niederreiter's a great spot. I think he's 4,400.
Should be a high scoring game, so I think there's a lot to like up and down this matchup for sure.
The last matchup of the night, we have the Philadelphia Flyers and Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, a lot was made of what the Golden Knights did last year.
Yep.
A lot has been made, especially from us, about what we expect. Some regression out of them, but not too much regression. Still expect them to be a very good team. Added Pacioretty, added Stastny. They lost Nate Schmidt for now, so they that opens things up for guys like Colin Miller and Shea Theodore on the back end. But not a great opening matchup for them. The Flyers much improved this offseason as well.
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in this game? It looks like it could be pretty low event, low scoring 2-1 game.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much fading this game. Like you said, there's a lot of question marks with that second Vegas line. It looks like it'll be a pretty strong unit, but never seen Pacioretty, Stastny, Hall play together before, obviously. So just a lot of uncertainty there. And the Lindblom, Patrick, Voracek line was actually pretty effective last year, so that might be a tough matchup. And then I think Philly and Vegas won. They're both solid lines going head-to-head, and when you compare them to, I guess, like we said, the other premier lines of 5-5 in the league, they don't really generate as much chances as the rest do. They more
even if you do love those lines too, there's just like these other premier lines have great matchups, and these guys are going to just smash each other in the head constantly all night long, and probably not generate too much.
So I think if anything, it's going to come down to special teams in this game again, which is why I'm avoiding most of these stacks at 5v5. I just think it's going to be a pretty low event game. It's going to be a tough task for him, and he was terrible last year, but Brian Elliott probably deserves some consideration as a value goaltender.
Yeah, he's the cheapest goalie on the slate, I believe, $7,000. So, if it's going to be a low-event game like we think it could be, starting goalies against Vegas last year was a mistake on most nights, especially
in Vegas. But
as the cheapest goalie in
I think the upside is there for sure, especially when you consider you shouldn't see that many difficult chances, I guess. High danger.
And Elliott's pretty solid in his own right. So if you had to pick a couple of your favorite stacks tonight and a couple of your favorite goalies, who do you like the most tonight?
Nashville 2 for sure, Minnesota 2, like Pittsburgh 1 as one of the top stacks, and then Columbus 1 for sure.
Yeah.
And then in that same breath, I like Korpisalo a lot in Detroit. I think he's kind of reasonably priced around.
He's 8,100.
Yeah. But when for me, that's like one of the most lopsided matchups on the slate.
Oh yeah.
Korpisalo, a fine goalie in his own right. And then like we talked about, Elliott, I think is a cheap,
decent play.
And then Matt Murray too. I think, like I said, we really like Pittsburgh tonight in the back-to-back. It's a bit of a risky pick as well. But if you're having trouble fitting in one of the goaltenders that's closer to $8,000 on DraftKings, I think Matt Murray is the way to go.
Yeah, I think Carter Hutton's worth a little bit of consideration too. I think he's at 7,200.
72, yeah.
He was great last year. I'm a little bit worried starting his first game in Buffalo. We don't really know what that's going to look like yet, so I'll probably stay away. I do like Brian Elliott as 7,000. there's just enough upside there to play him at 7,000. Pekka Rinne, I think, is my number one goalie target tonight, 8,100. High price, but they should just wipe the floor with the Rangers tonight.
For sure.
And then for me, I know I'm wearing the Wings jersey, but I'm all over Columbus 1 for sure. I have a little bit of interest in Columbus 2 as well if I decide not to fit in the Columbus 1. Foligno, he's at that power play 1 exposure. Wenberg, the only thing about Wenberg, doesn't shoot a ton, but I've always been a big fan of Bjorkstrand. He's fairly reasonably priced. See some power play time as well. Love Werenski.
Yeah.
And then I think the other way I'm going is Carolina. I like Carolina 1 a lot. Big fan of Aho, big fan of Teravainen. I think Ferland comes in at like 4,700. She's pretty reasonably priced. And Justin Falk's a guy who shoots the puck a ton.
Yeah.
He's on that top power play unit. He's at 5,100. So if you're looking for a mid-price defenseman, I really like Justin Falk tonight. But do you have any final thoughts?
I think we're good. I think we got it.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. We did it in under 20 minutes. We were trying to keep it under 30, so not too bad.
Not at all.
So just going forward, this is the first live show we've done. We are going to be going live on Facebook every day. Usually it'll be a little bit earlier than it was today. We're shooting for around 4:30. But just keep an eye out on Twitter and Facebook. We'll kind of let you guys know when we're coming live.
And if you miss it,
it's going up on YouTube, and you can watch that before you lock your lineups. If you guys ever have any questions, even before the show, ask us on Twitter. If you have questions during the show, fire them in the chat section. But anyways, I'm Brock Seguin, Dylan Berthiaume. This has been the DFO Show, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow, same time.
peace.